Earth's history that's out of place, and we have a whole planet that's full of it. Because now that we're starting to dig deeper, now we're starting to get to the point to where now all of the things that we're finding are out of place, because we're with LIDAR, being able to look underground, and with muon radiography. And I said, even on Lighting the Void and on Beyond the Strange, I said, we will find new chambers in the pyramid. If not, we'll be able to see it perfectly once we use muon, because it's just like getting an x-ray in the emergency room. You go in there and they put all the tiles on the lowest part of the pyramid.
I was just going to say, I saw a new video of that. Yeah.
The cosmic rays rain down all night, and from the direction and speed that they hit it, you get a high definition 3D view of the entire pyramid. So even a density, even a cubic millimeter of density change in a pyramid, you'd be able to tell. So there'd be no way to hide complete chambers, but it shows that that it's not tombs, but also all of the structures around there, and like, there's things that you just don't hear about. Like, I sat there, I was like taking care of my grandmother, who's like super old. She's like on her deathbed kind of thing. So I'm like having to listen to the news all day long. They talked about Trump and Twitter for 12 hours straight. And I'm like, I've never heard anything about the 3,000 room labyrinth found at the foot of the pyramid. I've never heard anything about that. If you want to hear about that, you got to go on like Earth Files and listen to like Linda Howe or something. But, a 3,000 room, that's almost certainly what Herodotus was writing about in the,
how do we know that
when he wrote the Labyrinth?
How do we know that chamber is even real, though? Because the only accounts we have of it are from fringe authors and researchers.
Well, right now, just look at the company who's doing it. The company that does the muon radiography is a Japanese company, and they're pretty straight out with it. It's like when the scans are done, the info goes up, and there's people literally that are waiting on it. So that's why things are getting harder to hide, and it's just that there's so many people out there that are waiting on those images to come back.
Oh, you're talking about the LIDAR of the archaeological sites?
Yeah, LIDAR, and also like, see, like one example, like one of my friends, Evan Strong, was just on Ancient Aliens the other day about Australia, because it's been kind of taken out of our history. But there's a place called Karyong, and it's got all these Egyptian glyphs. And when you read the people, the education system was saying that it is that it's just vandalism, and that somebody came in there and took their time to carve these 2 walls of Egyptian hieroglyphs. And they were saying some of them were backward and all this stuff. But
they've even found sarcophagi in Eastern Europe and Turkey.
When you read the story, it's the story of 2 brothers, and one of them died from a snake bite. Well, I do work with like Klaus Donna, and Klaus, he does a lot with the LIDAR stuff too. So what we did, and he's, we're all friends, like Stephen and Evan Strong and Ildi down in Australia. And so Klaus got a LIDAR scan done of the Karyong glyphs, and the Egyptian that died from the snake bite is buried right there at the wall. So his tomb is right there at the wall. So there's no like agency in between us. When we get the data, we're getting the data. And so, that's just a direct answer right there. You're like, this kind of looks like a tomb down here at the end. And, then when you scan it and you find that there's bone material in there and other things that you would bury with an Egyptian gold and other things that are inside of it. And, but and there's some things that are non-answers that give you answers, like at Machu Picchu and places like that, and Shoria Gornaya. Shoria Gornaya, Kazakhstan, is probably the most amazing place on earth. It's the Trilithon stone in Baalbek is 900 tons, and Shoria Gornaya is complete mountains in Kazakhstan and Siberia made of like 1,000 to 5,000 ton stones. But that looks like somebody trying to survive an impact event. But that doesn't look like the structure. That looks like the top of something. But just like Machu Picchu and everywhere else, and now in Giza, now when we do the LIDAR scans, there's these massive undergrounds underneath all of these sites. And but you're not allowed to dig an inch deep into the dirt in Machu Picchu.
Freaking crazy. Yeah. So much is out there, dude. Yeah, like you're just saying, man. And if you are, I don't know. I like the whole crowdsourcing thing of like you're saying that So have you been have you traveled to any of this stuff yet?
To the Mayan sites, I have. I've been down to Mexico and to Belize, and I've been going down there since I was young. So we're thinking about making a Mayan Mimo tours with Ildi Budai. They go to Egypt, a few times a year, and you're going with people who know the area and everything. And so we're thinking about adding a Mayan leg to the tour, because I've been to Chichen Itza and Tulum and all these places. It's different when you go to someone who knows it, because they'll tell you this is the Temple of the Feathered Plume Serpent. And I said, well, I think that says the Templo del Hombre Barbado, which means the Temple of the Bearded Man. And I don't see any Mayans with any beards. So, I think there was somebody else here teaching them.
Yeah, and how do you think they got around? Just by travel, just long distance travel? Like, you think it was all continents were connected right there, a little bit differently?
I've been to Palenque, and right there at Palenque, you have the Tomb of the Astronaut, and just the cover of the tomb kind of tells its own story. It's not one of them things that could even be read as something else. I mean, either the guy is in a submarine or he is in some type of aircraft. That's just all there is to it.
All the mechanics and everything, all the random
he's
stuff.
Got something. He's got a mask over his face, and his feet are on pedals, and he's
fucking crazy.
He got hands on handles, and
I remember seeing that on Ancient Aliens and being like, "Oh my god, this is off the charts." That was when you start going and I'm sitting there probably 4 bong rips in, and all of a sudden I'm watching. I'm like, dude. And then your head just starts melting.
I've seen it live. I've seen most of the ruins in the Yucatan.
You did? You've been down there too?
When I was 15, I wanted to be an archaeologist, so I studied the Yucatan for 2 summers and went all over the place. But I went to Palenque, I went to Zipak Talchun, I went to Chichen Itza and Tulum.
Cool.
All those places. And
like last time we stayed at the Grand Zacret, that's right there, like on the property with the temples at Tulum. And that was an amazing place, because you can like get in a little lazy river in an inner tube with
the that's at Shelha, right? Isn't it called Shelha, the national park there?
Yeah. And it's awesome. Yeah. And it's like they've enclosed it now. And so they even have, they have all this wildlife in there that's just, that lives inside of it, that's protected. So, you got monkeys. That's what you see on the Independent Research Society, a picture of a monkey on my head that followed me around. Every time I opened my balcony door in the morning, they knew. I guess the little monkey knew to jump up there, because she knew if I was like coming out there at like sunrise, that was probably food out there and whatever else. See smoke coming off the balcony.
Monkey bong rips.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of that physicist at Nassim Haramein?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've been studying him since the Rogue Valley Physics Conference.
Resonance Science Academy, I think it is, or something like. I think
the Resonance Project.
Yeah, where he takes groups of people over there too, and they're doing a lot of stuff.
Actually, I found out we had both had our kind of like awakening, like to shit that doesn't matter, to
I think he said he's about 20 years into it now.
Yeah,
too.
I was at Chichen Itza. It was like 1995, and I was
makes sense.
And there was a group like meditating at the top of the pyramid, and that's the exact same story he told. He saw a group that was meditating. He went up there and closed his eyes, and he started having these kind of weird effects. But it's almost like when you close your eyes there, it's like you can see people walking around you, and it feels like everything's gets soft around you. It has like crazy effects there, and a humming that you always hear and feel.
That's a weird thing, because so you see these people, but you don't know what they're experiencing, so you're going into it blank.
And it's like they're looking at you when they walk past. It's like crazy. I open my eyes like, holy shit.
Yeah,
that's
because
that's why all these people up here.
Well, that's like what I'm trying to, say somebody has, my house is haunted. So right then you have this like implant in your head, like you might experience a ghost, you might experience something. So you're looking for it, but like you see a group of people, you don't really know what they're doing. I guess you see them meditating, one thing, but then you're walking in it, and if you start feeling this field of energy and shit, dude, that's got to be fucking crazy.
Well, I found out it's weird. I did the same thing he did. I saw a group up there meditating, so I just went over there and sat down to the side. This is when you can still climb the pyramids. I don't think they let you climb up on it anymore, but I just sat down next to them and then just closed my eyes. But it was like the people I could see walking around me weren't like people like us. It was like a long time ago type situation. And that you kind of open your eyes and kind of readjust. And I was like, that's when I left my friends that I went to Mexico with at the hotel room. They were all like hungover, didn't want to go to Chichen Itza. And I was staying at the Grand Caribe Real, which is like 15 minutes from Chichen Itza. I was like, I'm not coming down here and not going to see the pyramid because of, Hard Rock Cafe and Coca La Manga.
I'm going out into the woods, man. I'll see you later. Yeah, no shit.
Yeah,
man, someday, man, someday. But I would, man, to the future, dude.
I'm actually trying to get a trip together right now. So wow. I'm gonna put together some type of fundraiser so a group of us can go down there, and because it's different when you go down there with people who know the area. Because if not, you just get herded right into it like it's Florida,
like a tourism type shit. Yeah,
you get stuck in the resorts. Yeah. I'm like, the dudes with machine guns, don't be afraid of them. They're to protect our ass, because if one of us gets hurt, all of the tourism goes 30 minutes back north to Cancun.
That's what they're protecting, yeah. But then what if you get what if you get snatched
like, don't
up?
Smoke that. There's a cop right there. I'm like, he's smoking too.
Yeah, dude.
There's tons of that. I remember Mexico City, I saw a ton of that. What happened to Grim?
Yeah. It's cool because it's like right where he went to. It's like when you go from Cozumel Island, which Cozumel is like Florida, but when you're on an island, but when you take the boat over to the mainland, that's Playa del Carmen, and that's where I always go, and that's the
Playa del Carmen is where those pyramids are, right?
Well, that's just from there,
or from there you go to
everything is within like 30 minutes of there.
Well, Tulum's a little bit further. I think it's like 90 kilometers south.
Yeah, well, it's 90 kilometers south of Cancun, but see, Playa del Carmen's halfway to there. So you got it's like 45 minutes on each side. So you're like dead center, because Playa's like halfway down the east coast of the Yucatan, and Tulum is just north of the Belize border right there. But I stayed at the Grand Zacret Occidental, and it was just amazing. Hang on, I'm gonna grab something real quick.
Yeah, man, no problem. Steak break.
Gotta grab me some coffee.
Do we have what is Jeffrey's thing? Like, what am I gonna what should I put in the description?
He does, let's see here. He's got
archaeology.
No, I'll tell you in a sec. Yeah. Sorry. He does the Independent Research Society. That's his main site. And then it's Jeffrey Boyd Jr. It's Jeffrey Boyd, Boyd.
Yeah, I got that already.
Okay. That's it's Twitter. But and I think he has let's see, what do we got here? I think he's got that YouTube channel also. But I know he's on Facebook. I think that's his main.
I got it. I'm all good. Thank you.
You got all this stuff?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I was gonna link tweet. What are you doing? Oh. Yeah. Yeah, right.
I need to get me a new set of cans, big time. They wore out. I had the other ones that they have little problems on Skype. I'm so sick of Skype.
Yeah, that's why we I don't know. One of our buddies, like he works for Zoom, and that's how we found Zoom. And it's just it sounds better, it runs smoother. There's a little bit more options. I don't know. There's some cool stuff though.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, just being able to share my videos and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy. That's what I mean. The options to do that stuff is like really easy.
You should show those again because we weren't live.
Yeah, we can kind of go over some of this stuff again,
or just start, a new segment here. Not a new segment, but a segue from where we were to the space stuff that was captured. Yeah. And
where'd we start at?
Where did you find this stuff? What's the deal? Why do you watch these cameras?
I watch everything.
Why do you watch these cameras?
Just curious. I mean, just curiosity. I watch everything. Well, I'm starting to hear myself twice.
That was me. Sorry.
Okay.
I had something plugged in.
I was freaking out. Like, who's doing that?
Well, I mean, just different things that raise flags. Tell me that, they make it appear like to us down here that we're about to be in a war with Russia, but with everything else we do, we're partners with them on everything. But like now they're doing stuff that a lot of people aren't paying attention to right now. Whenever they're doing like these chemical warfare stuff, why are they working together? Number one, and why are they working in chemistry? That I'm trying to figure out, why aren't they taking things into zero gravity and they find out that antibiotics and things don't work in zero gravity, and they're trying to do what's called gain of function. You try to make a virus or a bacteria do something that it didn't do before. And, that doesn't seem like something that's helping us out a lot, and, but the whole space program thing, it seems like it's been a soap opera, like a TV show for a long time, because just like the things we were watching before, I think there's nothing that the military didn't do first.
Yeah.
I mean, just period. There's just no way around it, because, I mean, what happens when anybody discovers anything? The military shows up and they take control of it, and that's it. But that's why I think, I mean, and I worked at the airport, and I had my office set like right at midfield for like 15 years. And so right across the river from the private airport is Barksdale Air Force Base. And there is some crazy stuff going on here. I have some pictures I can show you.
Barstow?
Yeah, some things I've seen here. And I did military training out there, this little land nav class that just teaches you, how to go from point to point. And they have like races and stuff and competitions out there. But that's when they were trying to get me in the military. And there are a couple lakes out there, and the amount of property that's out there, there are so many bunkers and so much stuff that they don't tell anybody about. And just rows of underground bunkers out there. I guarantee there are nuclear arsenals, chemical or whatever, or entrances to whole underground facilities. But the things that I see in the sky over here is just crazy. But I have a picture of something I can show you too, yeah. But I don't know if I have it on my laptop, but it doesn't look like a craft. It looks more like maybe an entity or something. But if you watch Helio Viewer, it's like the Solar Dynamics Observatory in Soho. It looks at the sun all the time. And like I showed on, you might have seen when I showed on Dave Cruz's show, those big jellyfish type things that me and Dave are always talking about that show up around the sun. They just showed up this last July 12th. They came back.
Someone else picked those up in night vision. Do you do any night vision stuff? The third gen? I heard that's like what you could pick it up with. I'll find this link. This guy catches this blob, for lack of better terms, which drops these white things out of it, but they're all connected. Yeah, that looks like a jellyfish when it's done,
Yeah, and you can't see it with and we have such a small visual spectrum too. Right. But
we totally got gypped.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I was gonna say, Jeff, Jerry films every night. He does a moon cam. And what kind of camera you use, dude?
I might have been watching your channel.
Probably.
I don't do a live stream. I film on nights.
Well, he films it. Yeah,
when I can see the sun.
Like I saw those videos that shows the wave go across
the lunar wave thing.
I'm trying to catch.
That's what he's trying to catch. Yeah,
I've been watching.
I have a Nikon P900.
So is that you really? What do you think about the moon, man? Like, do you like? So you okay?
Actually,
so you saw
we just did a show on it,
yeah.
on Watchers, and it was like on a time before the moon, and so they were. I guess they had me on there as kind of the math science part of it. Like, why does the moon always face us? And so I had to explain to him like a slow speed collision, would make the back one absorb into the front one, and now you have the densest part facing away from you all the time. And there's just a lot of things about it that are anomalous, which I was in the Lunar Research Society and the Mars Research Society before I ever did the Independent Research Society. That's just because I was doing work in different fields. And so I tried to find something that I could take all these pieces of paper that I had written and put them all in one thing, And that's how I started the Research Society. But see, now with the Independent Research Society, I've got so many people studying in so many different fields that now I've partnered up with them on all these different projects. So I'm studying everything from Australia to the sun.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Now you have a group of people, right, that can kind of gather information.
Well, I mean, like Chase Klotsky, she's in MUFON, but she was in the Department of Defense. And then you got Walter Bosley, who is the secret space program guy. And he was in a FOSSI, which is Air Force Office of Special Investigations, and the FBI. And then you got, and when you want to talk about Australia, I'm talking to Evan, who's actually now, Evan and Stephen Strong are like the guys to talk to about Australia.
Mm-hmm.
And when I want, like for my book, whenever I needed pictures of Egypt, Ildi, and who does Mimo tours, she's going down there and she takes people not to the regular tourist sites. She does like I do and takes people off the path, like to Elephantine Island and the places where it just looks like a skyscraper used to be standing there, and different things like the Osirion, like Osiris was not even a person. Osiris was a machine. And if you go look at the Temple of Osiris, you'll see that it's a pretty amazing thing. But all these cameras, people don't realize how many thousands of cameras we have going around the earth at all times that are owned by private companies. And so there's not even a layer of protection. Like there's literally not even a place to sign in or join or anything. You just one click and you are watching. And
let's get our own satellite, dude.
Let's do it.
pretty soon. Like, well, they're sending up those CubeSats, I think, or CubeSats. We can launch one off of Tom DeLonge's laser guided fucking laser guided launch pad.
The Star Academy University satellite.
It's blowing my mind. I'm watching Fox News the other night, Tucker Carlson, and they're showing that old school video of the plane chasing the UFOs or whatever.
Yeah.
And in the corner it's got To the Stars Academy on it. I'm like, what the fuck, man?
I'm like, it just happens to be the most popular cross band across demographics over the last 50 years.
It's totally Tom's.
Yeah.
How long is it?
I agree with the same thing. But I mean, think about it. If you Google it, if you look up what band had more crossover hits, like blacks listen to it, whites, people listen to country, Blink 182 is it. You know? I mean, but I
Grimsteak has the PJ still.
That's awesome.
Dude, you're muted, bro.
Yeah, but hey, the Stars Academy.
I got a Blink 182 hoodie.
Yeah.
The Stars Academy needs to tell us what this thing is. Because this thing, something else.
Is this the VHS tape?
Well, this is me watching a screen. This is actually, I think I was using
Lego, whatever you called it.
I was using a camera.
Yeah. But this
using
was
a camera watching my computer.
Wait, before you stop right there for a second. That picture is hilarious. Oh fuck! No, what was I going to say?
In the beginning?
No. What was I going to tell him about? Or ask about? Oh, your story about what the ISS feed going dark. That's why you found this.
And we'll see in almost all of them, even HelioViewer, they all have a time bar on the bottom that you can slide back and forward and backward in time, so you can go backward a few minutes before they get rid of it if they're going to. But this was during a time where there was like they were having a big international deal where there was like, I don't know, like an Iranian up there and like somebody from Mexico and somebody from China, somebody from Russia, somebody from the United States. So there was this big international thing. And this is whenever they first started, people first started noticing that the NASA feed started going black. So I started watching the NASA channel, waiting for it to go black. And what I did is, while I had been watching that, I had been viewing other cameras that were available. And some are actually floating outside the space station looking at it. I guess if they ever have like a technical issue they got to fix outside or whatever, there are actual cameras that point at the space station from outside. That's how you get shots of it. It's not like on an arm or anything, it floats with it. And, I mean, how easy would a drone be in zero gravity? But I found all these other cameras. But then when the channel went black, I uh, I was watching the NASA channel, and I had another camera up there, and I think this one was for a few seconds right before it went dark. I had recorded it because I couldn't record it on. I couldn't go back on what I was watching, and so I, just to make sure, I recorded it right before it went black, and this is what it was right before it went black. Like after this video, at the end of this video, it went totally black and didn't come back on for the rest of the day. It came on with some BS. It repeated.
Click the full screen on your. Yeah, this is unbelievable.
This is, and I mean, I'm like, did I get like the best footage like of anybody ever of this? Because I was like, holy crap! But that's how everything's worked this year. It just happened for some reason.
That is, I don't know. It is. Yeah, it's kind of leaves you
right
a little
there,
speechless, dude. But then you start thinking, you're like, okay, it looks like a triangle is shaped.
And right there, you see that little round thing that you're gonna see in a second toward the end of the video. So, because I look for little things that even on there that could be a hoax, some people say they're trying to set us up for Operation Bluebeam or whatever. But you can see the pieces here and that triangle that we were looking at. You can tell that it's long and it's got a triangle shape, but it's not the usual triangle shape. It's flat and a triangle. It's a long cigar-shaped triangle, if you want to call it that. But I think it's just when people say a cigar shape, they're just not getting this view of it.
Yeah.
And right here, you see that other piece, and you see that other piece, and you see what it was reflecting. Those two things were reflecting, and you're starting to see that triangle and a lip that hangs over the edge of it. So you can get and see, you can see the shadows of the lip that it hangs over. So, I mean, there's just not any way to fake that right there, because the pixelation would be different in here than it is out here. But you can see the same pieces throughout the video, and there's an identical one right behind it, just flying formation with it.
And this one's recorded off their camera, right? The space cams?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you recorded this like what day? Like a year? What did you say, about a year and a half or a year ago or something?
Hang on. This was a while back. This was hang on.
Oh yeah, it says the numbers in the
2014 right there.
Oh wow.
Yeah, this is whenever NASA first went. I mean, this is whenever it first started being a big deal that their cameras were going black, and so it had happened before, and that's when I started watching it all the time. I just left it on in the background, but I think I saw the camera zooming, and I was like, "What is it zooming at?" And so I started filming it.
Dude, I don't know. Yeah, it leaves you kind of speechless for a minute, but you start thinking like, what the hell?
I just it looks like VHS tapes flying in the air, like they're sending them to each other. Here's our secret subspace communication VHS tape.
You can see the shape, and you can see the same reflection at the same angle. They're even sitting at the same attitude and they're going exactly the same direction. So you get the same reflection off the same two pieces right here and off of that back flat piece. And, I guess that gives you a little, a show of the depth that it's not a pointed triangle. It's kind of rounded edges, because that's why you get this reflection right here. So you're looking at the top of it too, a little bit of it. But when it goes by, and you can tell by where it's at in the beginning to the end, how fast it's going and how much altitude it's gaining, how fast.
Yeah, that's
That's just insane. And I found a bunch of them where you can see like a field around it, or disturbing the air, but you can tell that it's outside of the atmosphere. It's not. It doesn't seem to have any like. Sometimes you can see a magnetic field around things, or especially when people are faking things. But this just looks like a video of an airplane flying through the air. But this is way above the atmosphere. This is like cruising like halfway in between the space station and the Earth.
Cruising with space.
Yeah, this is out of the atmosphere.
You beat me to it.
Yeah, I mean, I find this just unreal. Yeah, like all by just switching different, like, would you say IPs or whatever, right?
Yeah.
No, just switching the input cameras.
I had been sitting there watching the other cameras, and so I'm looking at a couple of different ones at the same time. But then I saw that, on the TV, I saw, because I had two computers and then I had a TV screen, and I saw the NASA screen start zooming in. And that's whenever you notice after the things fly by, it pops up some little mission thing. It goes to like, hey, well, actually, that's where it goes black. You see where it pops up some mission description, or yeah, there it is right there. So right when those things went by, that's where it blacks out. That's where they cut the channel off. So I got it exactly whenever they cut the channel off. But I'm going through my videos because I have so many of them, because I have those same things at another, well, it's from the same angle. It's just not zoomed in like that one was. That camera, somebody was actually happened to be looking at the time. That's why I'm starting to think that it's military, because it's kind of like a needle in a haystack. If you weren't zooming in on those, you would probably never see it.
Yeah.
I mean, because if you look at it from the beginning, they are so far. I mean, look at that. You would never see that. But think about how fast they're going. They're crossing over Africa in 10 seconds.
You know what's weird? Like, okay, so you see that.
And look where it's coming from. It's over the North Pole.
Well, I was just to say the shape. Okay, that when you first see the Earth in that shape, it's like kind of like an oval. So, you think like, is it fisheye lens or not? See, then all of a sudden it doesn't seem like it's a fisheye lens. Like,
yeah, well, at the beginning of it, you're looking. I mean, you're looking at the whole Earth. It's like it just depends on how far back it's zoomed.
Yeah,
you can see the whole Earth in a lot. See there, you can see the top and the bottom.
Right.
But right there is me trying to hurry up and get my camera turned on.
Okay. Yeah, oh yeah, that's right. You're filming the screen, so the angle could be different. Yeah, so
yeah,
right, yeah. Then it's zooming in,
and I'm zooming in. Yeah, well, you can see right there. Now I'm already zoomed in. Now it's just them zooming.
Yeah.
So they are actually watching this.
Right.
So they're looking at it, thinking, nobody's paying attention, and then right here somebody cuts it off at NASA. Because this is not a replay. I mean, they would not replay something like that.
Oh yeah. Oh no way. Yeah, like you're saying, they're doing this all the time. It seems like they're the feed cut out. The feed cut out. But
yeah, and this screen popped up and was up there for maybe an hour or so, and then one of those things on how they built the lunar lander and all this stuff came up. So it went from a live NASA channel to like some
one of their B-roll tapes or whatever.
Yeah, documentary things on how they built some bullshit that they didn't use or something.
Yeah, I used to have that, and then I switched cable companies. I don't have the NASA channel anymore, which is fine. I don't know.
It's not going to show anything anyway.
Yeah.
But see, that was right whenever the NASA channel was like, I don't think anybody was really watching it back then, and just a couple people it got out that it was catching little things here and there. But I think that was one of those deals where they like weren't sure, because it flips between cameras. Yeah. And so I'm not sure. I don't think that person knew when they zoomed in like that they were that
live.
Camera was live on the downlink, because that you don't get any more close up. And people have said, give me definite proof of freaking UFOs. Well, there it is right there. That's as clear as you're ever going to get anything, unless I I mean, because even if you have a video of somebody landing, like they say, on the White House lawn and something getting out and meeting the president, somebody would still say that was fake unless you were there, you know?
Yeah.
And so nobody's going to believe any of it. But right there is straight off a NASA channel, you know? That was them watching either, but it looks like to me, you see them coming over the North Pole. So it looks like it's coming from about the United States, but you see how fast they cover the North Pole and got
it was over. It was gone. Yeah.
I mean, they are cruising, and so I think they were already in orbit. You know, I think they were already in orbit, coming around the Earth, and that camera was waiting for it, and like we'll be able to see it right here in just a second. You know, and don't know.
Watching the obelisk take off. Yeah.
I don't know on that one. And if you notice that, and just like they do airplanes, you know, you have vectors that you fly at, kind of like highways in the sky, so you don't crash and you don't have random planes flying everywhere. They kind of make little hallways for you to fly in. Well, it's the same with satellites. You have like rings and you have certain altitudes that they are at. So they're all going the same direction. And so they're all together. So you don't just have random satellites and you have to pick a place to fire a rocket out of. Pretty much if you fire a rocket anywhere other than the satellite ring, you'll get out of orbit without hitting something. But there's starting to be a lot of junk up there. But those things were factory made. And I don't know what they are, but they keep talking about these space platforms, and that could be what those are.
Yeah, I was just to keep with the whole space thing, and we were kind of chatting earlier about it. It's just like, okay, so we were doing a little bit of math, right, Jared? So okay, so the space station is supposed to be about 250 miles up, right?
It varies from 205 to 270 miles.
Yeah.
Above.
And then the satellites are supposed to be
those are everywhere.
All in this circumference of an area. They're not going higher than that, right? They're not going past.
Yeah, they are.
Space station.
Some are.
Some are. Yeah.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I said. That's what I was talking about, the rings. Like you'll have one ring that's at like a 200-mile radius like that, and then you'll have another ring that sits like this, you know. And that's why they say that the black night, every time that they think they see it, it's on this polar orbit. Because the only other thing in our solar system that is on a polar orbit is either Phobos or Deimos. One of them is going around the planet the regular way, and the other one is going opposite the other direction, and it's going on a almost exact polar orbit. And that's one of that's the one that Buzz Aldrin like started, you know, when he started getting a little loopy. He started blabbing about the monolith on Phobos, and we need to go back to Mars.
Get your ass to Mars, right? And then he went down to Antarctica and got all fucked up, right?
Yeah, he got the shit scared out of him about something. And see, I've got tons of pictures I'll show you of all these pyramids that are under the ice. I have pictures of pyramids using LiDAR that are under 12,000 feet of ice. And then I have other ones that are the size of a mountain that are like a tetrahedron shape, but they're perfect. I mean, they are absolutely
let's stay with the space stuff for a little bit more, and then we can kind of make our way back to Earth.
I think a lot of the space stuff is down there.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. So, okay, we talk a lot about space and maybe space.
What
we think it, what we think of it may or not, what it may or may not be. I don't know. There's a million different like ideas and questions out there, but I mean,
a lot of psyops. They throw a lot of bullshit out there to see what people believe.
So I mean, you're down. So are you down with like the globe theory? Are you down with there is space?
Well, man, I've flown planes my entire life, and so I already know for a fact it is. Just because the navigation wouldn't work, there's only 8 miles that you can see to the horizon. So another VFR tower that's giving off a ping, you won't even be able to detect it until you get to that next point. But also, if you fly a triangle that's 10,000 miles and make a 90-degree turn, and then make another 90-degree turn, you'll end up at the same exact point you started from, and that can only happen on a sphere. Like if you drew a triangle on a soccer ball, you would 2 90-degree angles, you would end up back at the same spot, and that can't happen on something flat. You would end up making a U shape. And but they it's just there's so much secret stuff in. I'll do stuff like go through and look at like, you know, Olaf Phillips was talking about it, so I started going through looking. And if you go on the Independent Research Society, I have the CIA press database, and you can go. It's 12 million files of like mathematical ciphers of signals that we've received and all this crazy stuff. But they released that very quietly in between the election and the inauguration and didn't announce it or anything. But it's crazy. People won't even go in there and look through the files. They're like scared that either I hacked it. That's what most people think, or they think that they're going to get in trouble or looked at by looking into it. And but you'll find like how you can even Google it right now. Howard H. campaign. Just Google NSA document 41472, and it'll show you a mathematical cipher of that he made to decipher these signals that came in. There were 28 of them. One of them, the first one repeated, and once they got the cipher down, then it came through. And just a little while back, there was a crazy signal that came through, which was stacked 16 bandwidth wide, and that's exactly how our DirecTV and technology is now. So whoever sent that signal,
send a signal back in the same.
Well, not just they knew our technology at that time, so it's either military sending full bandwidth, you know, or
I'm kind of down with like whatever's out there. Like it's ours. We did it. I think I would say 99% of it is ours. There's the 1% that's a little like unexplained, you know.
That's what I was saying about
because if something's coming back like that, it has to be something we made. Like I don't like the wavelength of the human to another species. I mean, you have to be because if it's an advanced if it's an advanced society or a civilization, their technologies and their view of dimension, you know, all that shit would be totally different.
Yeah, like, well, I mean, it's either they sent one exactly in audio, video, HD, like our DirecTV, to communicate with us, or it's us up there. But if you go look in the if you go look at the patents, Rand Corporation and Boeing, they both had like the Army Horizon base was planned to be finished on the moon in 1963, and then Boeing's, I think, but one was 1963 and one was 1973. Rand and Boeing, but
so they got the patents. Do you think they get the budget for that? Yeah. So it's like,
it's like,
if they're gonna give somebody money, they're gonna build something with it.
Well, you remember, I mean, it's just it's gotten so bad now that remember whenever they brought damn it, what's his name under Bush? They brought him in front of the guy with the glasses, the Secretary of Defense,
Rumsfeld,
yeah. They brought him in front. They actually had the balls to bring him in front of a congressional hearing, and they're like, "Well, where did this $17 trillion go?" And he's like, "I can't believe you would even bring my ass in here to ask me a question like that, because I have looked through my military budget and all that money that I'm supposed to be getting that you say that you're allocating to me." He said, I can't find out what $2 out of $3 was spent on. He said, he said that much money and you're going to bring me in here. I'm the one you shouldn't be asking about this. He said, I've gone and looked for it and I can't find where 2/3 of that money was spent. So I think you already have the answers yourself, you know? And that's just what the normal TV bullshit is. You know, I think that's what they do all the time. We get it in our movies, we get it in our TV shows. And I mean, even down to like, people don't realize a state is a country, you know, and we're supposed to be 50 countries underneath one flag, you know, and you even see like in the Boondock Saints, you see the freaking local Boston cops standing there. And then all of a sudden the FBI walks up and now the feds are here and now the local police don't matter. That's the opposite way that our whole government was supposed to be set up. And the federal government is supposed to be the last one in line, you know. And but by movies and everything else, it's been programmed into us that the feds are, you know, they run everything. But I think it goes down to we've had like the CFR, the Trilateral Commission, New World Order, call it whatever you want. People are worried about it coming. And they did that in Berlin when they split up the world, you know, and that's just all there is to it. And every bit of evidence I've ever found, all those countries all agree with each other on everything. And that's the people who run everything. Great Britain, Russia, China, the United States, you know, and that's just all there is to it. In Japan, and the only reason Japan even surrendered was they were allowed to keep the trillions and trillions of dollars worth of gold that was underneath Hirohito's palace. He's like, if I'm allowed to keep the money that's underneath my ass to rebuild my country, then I'll surrender, you know. And so,
and join NATO.
Him and actually MacArthur split it up.
It's NATO, though. It's NATO, all the NATO countries.
Yeah, and it's just one of them things. They need to like get the UN out of New York. There's all kind of crazy stuff they're talking about on the back channels now about putting like the UN or putting the world government in Jerusalem. Like right now they're talking about doing it. And you talk about having some problems, there would be some problems then, you know. And but
you got to ask yourself, why would they do that? I mean,
I have no idea.
Other than
it doesn't make any sense at all.
Well, you got to look at the UN too as some kind of extension of all the puppet masters. It's like a little bit of Tavistock, a little bit of CFR, a little bit of Trilateral, and a sprinkle of Freemasons. You got the UN, right?
Yeah.
With the whole Zionist overlay.
Well, look up on Jeff Boyd. My website, it's actually called The Joint. It's jeffboydjr.blogspot.
The Joint.
jeffboydjr.blogspot.com. And there is this brass piece of artwork of one ball busting out of another one. It's like mechanical. It's called the Sphera Conspira. And it's in front of the UN, and it's in front of the Vatican, and it's in front of all those buildings. And it's like at the CERN campus. It's like all the places that run the earth have the Sphera Conspira, and it literally means the new world out of the destruction of the old. And that symbol is in front of the UN. And I'm like, why would anybody want a picture, you know, a piece of art that means the destruction, you know, a new world coming out of the destruction of the old? And that just shows you how little people look into things. And people usually just say, "Oh, that's a cool piece of artwork." You know, I ask, "What the hell does that mean?" Because it looks obvious, you know, that the Earth's being cracked open and something's coming out of it, and that's in front of the Vatican. Why does the Vatican have the same piece of artwork as the UN?
The Vatican in the Pope's receiving hall. That's what it's called, his audience room. Whatever the fuck that big room is, it looks like a snake. There's that sculpture of a nuclear blast with Jesus rising from the ashes with the souls.
That's fucked up.
That is fucked up.
Haven't you seen that?
Like the throne of Lucifer in there. Was it the throne of Jupiter? I mean, why do you need to have a throne inside the Vatican? You know? But it's literally in the Bible, the throne of Lucifer and the throne of Jupiter, you know. I mean, but you're gonna, hey, like, I got an idea. Let's put a big throne in there, you know.
Jesus,
that'll be great. Hey, let's put, just like in Denver Airport. Hey, we got all these passengers. Let's put a big painting in the hallway of a bunch of terrorists in gas masks.
Gas masks. Yeah. Kids love it. The kids love it. It's great.
With a
get
dove,
a selfie.
A dove on the end of a sword, you know. Dude, holding a bomb.
Symbolism. Resonant. I mean, it's very powerful. I mean, yeah.
Oh, definitely. Man. I mean, but if you start looking into like the awesome. Yeah,
there you go.
Crazy.
That's not freaky or anything.
Pull up the next one I sent. It's better, a little bit.
They say that they said that a while back that, I mean, and that's one of the things I'm actually studying right now is a while back that the Vatican and all of Roman Catholicism changed from worshiping the Old Testament God to worshiping Lucifer. Which, think about it, what's the highest officer next to the Pope in the Vatican? The Lucifugi, you know. That, and I mean, you don't just have that by chance, you know. I mean, that's some morbid stuff right there. Look at that.
Right?
Yeah, it's like, hey, let's go to church, man.
Can you scroll into that or zoom or whatever? Like, control wheel into it.
Like, yes,
Hold the control key and then wheel your mouse.
Oh, wow. Look at that. You just taught me a sweet shortcut.
You didn't know that? You retard.
Praise God.
Control 0 returns to zoom level, no zoom.
God rules.
Man.
I mean, that is insane. I mean, that's just crazy. I mean, and you look through everything they talk about, and I mean, it's woven through everything. Well, I mean, how can they stand with that above them? You know,
because they're a death cult. That's why.
Flip the picture upside down.
Yeah,
coming down from
the Catholic
above.
Church worships death. That's all they do.
Well, I mean, but how? I mean, but even us 5 standing in front of that, I'm sorry, I could not even stand there. And
the resonant frequency of that.
I mean,
that looks like the backdrop to like a Metallica concert or Rob Zombie.
White Zombie. Yeah.
It's like Marilyn Manson is at the Vatican.
Oh, wait, let me show you a picture of the hall that's in.
Oh, that's scary.
There it is. Mm-hmm. Here you go, Grim. Show this one.
Lucifer. Lee.
This is even crazier. When you're standing at the back of it and looking down the center aisle, you'll see when you pull it up. It looks like you're inside a snake's head, or that there's one coming at you.
Eyes on the side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome.
And the sculpture is in the back of that, in between the fangs.
What?
And what's the name of that painting? The Embrazo Cosmico. It shows like
the cosmic embrace.
Alien beings like hugging each other, and then it has 2 angels like cranking the wheels, and it has all the symbols of the zodiac around it, and it's in the background of all these pictures with the Pope. There's so much weird stuff at the Vatican. That's insane.
Dude, I'm so glad we got 18 people in the chat right now watching and everything. Dude, this is great. This is fucking awesome.
I like this.
Thanks for coming, everyone. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, are they gonna message me, man? I was like, maybe I'll just go to sleep.
Nah, dude, we're around, man.
I've been putting all the links we've talked about.
My phone went off like 20 times in a row, and I'm like jumping up, throwing on a shirt, trying to get it running, turning off the radio show I already had playing. Yeah, I can't believe it. I looked at my list of shows. I was just trying to, everybody's like, you need to get your channel together and put all of them together on one thing. And I'm like,
streamline it all. Yeah.
I don't even like listening to myself, and especially at the beginning of it, I had some bad habits when I was like really nervous on some of those shows. And I'm like, but I look back and I'm like, there's 35 shows there from last year. And I can't even find all the ones from Aquarian Radio and Blog Talk Radio and all those. I was like, oh my God, how did I like slip up and do like 60 radio shows in a year?
How did you get here? I mean, was it just talking with people and all of a sudden you're just on shows and recording?
The first show, like on Aquarian Radio, like Carrie and Christine Patrick, they were in the Lunar Anomaly Research Society with me and the Mars Research Society. But she did a show on Aquarian Radio, like with Dr. Sasha Lesson, like Inky Speaks and all this. They do shows on the Anunnaki and stuff like that. But I was working as a chemical metallurgist at Komatsu Corporation.
That's what I was going to bring up. I knew you were in the metallurgy, dude. Yeah.
And they wanted to know what I thought about certain sites. And so that's how I got into archaeology. Then I literally had Klaus Donna and Bruce Cunningham showing me different pictures of places and saying, I want you to study this place and this place and this place. And in all of them, pretty much the question has never been asked, what is it even made of? And if you ask yourself that at Giza, well, it's 10% sodium carbonate with natron salt. That's baking soda, basically. Sodium bicarbonate, baking soda. And then 30% water. So 40% of the pyramid, think about it, is water and baking soda. And the rest of it is just sand from right there. So unless they were pouring 50-ton stones 40 miles away and then dragging them, they were poured in place. Because why would anybody ever pour almost 3 million stones and drag them and then try to float them across the Nile? It makes no sense. And everybody always asks the same question. Well, what about the obelisk? What about the stone and the obelisk that's still in the quarry? I said, it's still in the freaking quarry. It never got out. Oh, Imhotep, who they call the architect pharaoh or the pyramid building pharaoh, all the newer looking pyramids, the newer it is, the more it looks like a mud pile, and the smaller the stones get. That was from them trying to chisel out just one of those stones and one obelisk, and that wasn't any way. Like even at University of Louisiana, Lafayette, they tried to make a 75-foot obelisk, and they had a Dodge truck with straps and everything and a box with sand in it, just trying to stand up a 75-foot one, not a 237-foot one. And they still couldn't do it without cracking it.
And yet they tell us that these people did this with copper tools.
Yeah, well, if there was, think about it. It would take at least. I mean, think about how big 50 tons is. You're talking about like half the size of your house. It would take at least 100 copper chisels, and at 1 pound a piece. Let's just say you only had 1% of the chisels needed. Then there should be 2.78 million pounds of copper somewhere around the pyramid, and there's not one chisel found anywhere. Right. And they have 2-foot long copper saws. And I'm sorry. All you got to do is back up, look at a picture where the Sphinx is in the same picture as the pyramid, and you can see the Sphinx is limestone. This is a geopolymer. They're different colors, they're different textures, and you can even tell when they pull the when they pull the forms away, just like when you do here. You can tell one of them on a humid day, one was a dry day, one was a humid day. But even back then, and that's why I think, if you look at the clock, which I think Giza is, whenever it was, the Sphinx is looking at Leo, because I think it might have been a lion's head or something before, because all the Egyptians did that we know today, they just came and took the claim for everything from everyone before them. And even inside that culture, they'd go chisel out grandpa's name and put their name, and then history gets younger and younger and younger. But if you just look at it, the Mayans, they also had 5 ages of 5,125 years. That's exactly the precession of stars, the 26,000 years. And that's exactly the precession of how long it would take for the Sphinx to be looking at Leo with Giza right above to go all the way back around. But that's the age I think it was, because if you look at what that age is, that would be 10,480 BC. But I think it was 26,000 years before that, or maybe another one before that. They call it the Great Year all over the planet.
It's like the Graham Hancock stuff. Like
how do we know that the Egyptians even existed? It seems like it was an older culture that built that stuff.
I don't. That's what I tell everybody. It was not Egyptians that built.
No way.
We don't even know who built the pyramids.
Right. There was another thing you reminded me of. There's I forget where in Europe, but there's a place in Europe where the Roman Emperor Hadrian left some of his stonework, and they have some blocks there that are, I think, 150 feet long by like 35 feet wide, square tower blocks just laying on the ground. There's how did they get that there?
I think there's something like that in Malta. There was an ancient civilization in Malta too, but what people don't got to remember too, 12,000 years ago, just picture Europe and Africa without the Mediterranean Ocean, because in the Paleocene era, there was no Mediterranean Ocean. It was a skinny lake like a lock. So most of Egypt wasn't like, 70% of our population is on the coast right now. So it would have been out in the Mediterranean Ocean. So most of that civilization is sitting at the bottom of the Mediterranean. And they wouldn't have built the pyramids at Giza 5 miles away from the Nile. They would have built it right on the Nile. And I think the Nile was running through it, because like inside what they call the Queen's Chamber, on the ceiling, you have a ring of natron salt, that sodium carbonate I was talking about. And that's what you use for hydroelectrolysis. I actually did an experiment in like 4th grade. I took 2 nails and hooked it up to a battery pack, like 4 D-size batteries, and hooked this nail up to positive and this one up to negative. And and it's sitting inside water, and you put a test tube over each one of them, and it's full of water. And each one of them, positive and negative. This one fills up twice as fast as this one, because this is hydrogen and this is oxygen. And then I'd pull it off and I'd light the hydrogen, and it'd blow up. Now I don't think you can do that in school, but but you had to put baking soda inside of it to make it start reacting. And but that same material, that sodium carbonate, that's the best thing. So it looks like they were not just generating power, but their byproduct was clean burning hydrogen and oxygen. And it's a hydroelectrolysis machine. It's exactly the thing I built in 4th grade. I mean, it really is. I mean, and it would have been automated too. You wouldn't have had to have anybody inside because it's built on a quartz foundation. And that's what I think all these megaliths are across the earth. You have them built on a quartz foundation. So you put weight on top of quartz, you have piezoelectricity. Well, now you run water across it. They're all, and even the Mayan religion is the river that runs under the mountain. And so now all of them, just think about, instead of a microchip, think about a piezoelectric macro chip. If you built a microchip big enough on the planet, eventually the electricity would run it for whatever it did. And I think that's what we're looking at all across the planet is
so these electric grids.
Yeah. Like, and like, you know, at Carthage where you see those stones like separated.
Okay, well then you think about that, and then okay, you got the Mayans. Are they transferring? Can they transfer knowledge? Like,
yeah, well,
how much of a higher consciousness, you know?
That goes back to Nassim Haramein and also Rupert Sheldrake. The morphic genetic resonance is what I started studying, and see the shape of the air that everything we see is painted on is the star tetrahedron. And just like a FM carrier wave, you're not hearing the carrier wave, you're hearing the difference on the wave. And so I think everything's stored in the air. I don't think people are remembering past lives. I think their DNA, in DNA, a helix is shaped by forming the proteins around that star tetrahedron shape.
Yeah.
And so I think that people are not remembering a past life. I think they're remembering something that's in the air. And like, if we're on 98.9 FM, your DNA will be 98.912756, you know, and mine will be just a little bit off from that, you know. And that's what Nassim Haramein teaches too. And that's why I was like, it's so weird I came to the same freaking thing from a different direction, you know. And
do you think you're able to tap into 97.9? Like,
I think that's what the Akashic record is. I mean, I think the Akashic record is in the air, and I think that's how we also fix the problem of communicating over a long period of time. Because if you can change the shape of the subspace field, change the shape of that triangle just a little bit, like you do an FM carrier wave, it instantly changes all of them. You know, like if you and a perfect example, and this is a weird thing, if you take any amount of chemicals and you crystallize them, if it takes 1 hour for it to crystallize all over the planet, the next time you crystallize it and it takes 5 minutes, it takes 5 minutes in Australia too. So the first time you crystallize something, it will crystallize the same speed, even though they've never done it in Australia before. If you crystallize a chemical right here, and the first time it takes a whole day, but the second time you do it, it's like it's remembered in that field. And I think that's proof of it, because if they instantly try to make those same chemicals crystallize in Australia or Norway or somewhere else, it'll do it in 5 minutes, not a whole day. And it would also do it on Mars, or however far away you get, that memory is still in the air. And I think that shows a lot about our reality, you know?
Yeah, I like that whole, I'm into that, and I'm into the whole, obviously I'll bring it up again, the electric universe theory, where, so if it existed there, why have a spaceship? You could easily, like, in a thought form, be in one end to the other instantly.
Yeah. And know what's there too.
Because if you look at a brain map and all the neurons, electrons firing and connecting each other, then you zoom out of that and you keep zooming all the way out to fucking the universe. It's the same picture.
Yeah, super fractal.
Yeah. So I think these connections, like you said, are there constantly. They've always have been. They always will be on this plane of 98.9 or whatever, that channel. So, like you said, and tapping into the Akashic records of everything existing at one time, even all the way down to 100.7.
And think about it, that was that was the belief of all the ancients too. They all believe that, like the Mayans believe when they built something or they wrote something that they were writing it at all times at once.
I like that. Yeah.
And I mean, it's just like when we remember something right now, and just like us having this conversation, it's recorded in the subspace field forever. And that's why the Resonance Project, the symbol of their project is like the 212 star tetrahedron, because that's the shape that he calculated was the shape of the subspace field. And but whenever you look at that, everything else makes sense. Go look at the Joe Rogan interview with Rupert Sheldrake. They call him the father of morphogenetic resonance. Anybody who named their son Merlin, you need to listen to him. His son's name is Dr. Merlin Sheldrake, but he's the father of morphogenetic resonance, and he explains it so many. I mean, and I've gone and I've done so many tests that he's talked about. Like that's why bass lures and fishing lures have to change constantly. If you have a tank in the United States and one in Holland, one in Australia, one in Egypt, and the fish are all hitting this yellow lure with the orange dot on it. Well, the first second that one here makes the association, and you're pulling out 100 fish out of the tank every hour, out of all 5 of them, for the first time a fish here makes that memory identification of that not as food, but as pain and death, it instantly goes into the instinct of all of them. And in all the tanks all over the world, they move away from that lure that's in the tank.
That's a 100th monkey effect.
Yeah, and it's true. I've tested it so many different ways, and like birds that take milk cream out of the top of a certain type of milk in England. It was a chickadee or a blue tit. They take the cream out of the top of this milk. Well, after like 20 years, they had used another type of milk, and the second that they started using it again, everybody opened their doors and all their milk had been raided. And those birds hadn't been connected, and some of them weren't in the same families. And the only way, and that's also how we're born, with instinct and fear of falling and things like that. A lot of those memories are in the air, but there's things like that I started questioning. Like I know a couple of twins, and one was born with full brain matter, and the other one was born with only like 10% of the other one. Well, she's like a nurse and really smart, and and it shows that intelligence and memory and everything is not in your brain. Your brain is more like it's a quantum connection to the subspace field. Like that's what the I am is. We're all connected by that field, but it's the biochemical to electric adapter basically for us to drive our 3D bodies around this 3D environment. And everything about everything, when you study in science, when you actually do the experiments, everything points to that right there. And I think that's how we hear people talking about the Akashic records. If we could actually, like we read it FM wave, and you have your carrier wave, we could read that difference in the air that's around us. That's what that's what quantum entanglement is. That's the quantum connection. But we actually have quantum particles inside of our brain too. But our brain is what connects our body to everything else. So that is the part where we are the conscious universe. The universe having a moment of consciousness, learning more about itself. And I think just like that video of those 2 things flying by, there's so much that we don't know, but there's a select few that's been selected to have that knowledge, and I've just wanted to get more of that knowledge, I guess. And so any direction it led me in, that's just the direction I went. So it's not like I was studying it wherever it led me. When I was in metallurgy, oh yeah, that's what I was telling you about, how I got on the radio. Christine Patrick called me and started asking me questions, and I didn't realize that the questions she was asking me were the same questions that they repeat on Ancient Aliens over and over and over. And so I answered those questions like one by one by one. They just wanted a metallurgist opinion of how these things were built, and that got a huge amount of attention right there. And the next thing I know, I've done like 50 shows this year. Everything went crazy after that. So then I just started then I had to start studying the individual sites, and then I read Klaus Donna's Hidden History of the Human Race, and started looking at all the out of place artifacts. And that's when I started realizing that it's history that's out of place. It's not us. It's not the artifacts that's out of place. We've been taught a bunch of bullcrap, like Columbus Day history, is what I call it. It's just, if you want to celebrate Columbus Day, go ahead. There have been how do you discover a place that has 60 million people on it, and that people have been living it here for millions and millions of years? But something wiped out our and on Dave's show on Beyond the Strange, we did that video special where I released images of Point Doom. Jimmy Church tried to get it for like 5 years, and I actually got the first images inside Point Doom, Malibu, and it is absolutely architecture. I mean, there is no doubt about it. It has support columns that go all the way through it that are in perfect line, perfect rows to go back. It looks like statues that sit out front. There's a bridge that connects it to the structure next door. Let's see something. See if I can get it real quick.
Point Doom. I've never heard of this.
Yeah, they call it the deep underwater UFO base or something. And oh, hang on. Yeah, I actually have an image of it sitting right here somewhere. Yeah,
Heard of Point Doom, Jerry?
Oh yeah. Oh well, you can't see it that good. You can see rows of columns that go back, but I've tried to keep it offline so they don't get stolen from me, and because that's definitely going in my book. But I'll show you. But there's the Google Earth image has been skewed. They like put they make it look like the structure next to it is laying down. Here we go. There we go. And I actually got the first pictures inside of it. And right here, this is actually another structure next to it. There, these support columns. This is like 3 miles wide, 3 miles long, and like 1.5 miles wide. And these poles actually are perfectly lined up. They stand straight up and down. And they're actually, this is just all screwed up. The actual image, there's a bridge that goes in between here, a perfect bridge. And this is some of the biggest waves in the world right here. And so a bridge with no support columns or anything would not stand right there. This is where the waves come up onto the continental shelf. So it would be very hard to put something there. So it was built, but you can see how perfect this thing was built. But inside here, it has support columns that go straight across, and it looks like statues sitting out front. And actually, I'll do this. The special with Dave Cruz I did. I have it. You can go look at the bridge and everything. There we go. But this is exactly where the North American ice cap ended. And so if you were coming from one direction, you would see if you're coming from one direction, like along the ice, right where the ice ended in North America at Malibu, that's where this thing was. Let's see. Why is it not playing?
Oh, weird.
Trying to figure out why it's not playing. Oh, hang on. I know why. That's the wrong show. That same background got used. And here we go. Malibu. And I did a bunch of shows on that stupid Nazca mummy. And this will blow you away right here, too. I mean, this is definitely architecture. And I have pictures of those vaults that was found. That Ildi Budai took those pictures. My friend that does the tours in Egypt. Yeah, and they try to call it Sycamore Knoll now, like it's some natural thing. And yeah, fade to black. I've been trying to get the images for a long time. And yeah, I had to make it in some way that and you can see the line.
Have you talked to Jimmy Church yet? Have you talked to him?
No.
Yeah.
not yet. But I did ground zero, but I don't know.
Clive seems cool. Clive seems cool, man. Yeah.
I can't believe he didn't want to actually see the images of Point Doom, and and you can see where the bridge is built into it. I'm trying to find the place where the bridge is, because it shows pretty well that this is just, it's architecture. That's the Google Earth image, and it is absolutely architecture. There's literally hundreds of columns like lined up perfectly on the structure next to it. Yeah, I got my Duck Dynasty going on. I just cut off about a foot of hair.
I was gonna say, you lost the giant beard and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, we all look different every week, but
hippie Duck Dynasty. Yeah, and see, you can see these. I flipped the image around, and there's like a statue thing right there, and I saw a darkness right there, and there's rows of these columns that go back, and you can see part of that bridge right here.
Mm-hmm.
And let me get the image of the bridge.
What do you think? Do you think maybe like, okay, so if they're columns, is it really a bridge, or is it like you're talking about? So like in Egypt, you know how underground they have all these caverns and shit. Maybe this is something like not the same, but the same idea. Like, so if it's a cavernous area, maybe that's like just a roof to it or something. Like,
yeah, well, they say that.
Well, you know what you're saying, though. They have that penetrating radar, you know, so that image might be completely different than this. I'm probably just kind of making it up.
I was using LiDAR, and well, see right there, you can see the columns that go back. I was using bluefin sonar. I found a ship that had gone by, because in this other image, I'll show you there, right here. Right here this is Malibu Canyon, so it's like the Grand Canyon, but the naval base is like right there, and so. But you can see where right here, there's actually a canyon that's just like this one, and that's what the bridge goes over. So this is not even there. Like, and you can see where when the North American ice cap melted, this thing had been there long enough to deposit this material and to dig the canyon around this structure. So that structure stayed there. And right here, there's a deep canyon just like these over here, and there's a bridge that goes across it. But I've tried to like protect the material, because that's like, that's the one thing that I could like, make my book on about right there, because so many people, it was like on Fade to Black, they talked about it for a couple of years, and then it just, then there was like,
I remember Jimmy Church doing that whole thing. Whole study on it and everything.
Yeah, and I got the first ones inside there, and that's what. Well, see, Dave called in. I was doing Lighting the Void with Joe Rube.
Right.
And Dave called in. I was doing this, talking about LiDAR, and he's like, "Well, what about this UFO base? Can you get an image inside there?" And in like 5 minutes, I created a little private chat room and showed him the images, and he's like, "No freaking way." He's like, "You know how many people are looking for these pictures?" I was like, "Well, maybe I need to put it in a book." He's like, "I think you need to do that." So yeah, if I put that on the cover and say the inside of this is inside this book, I think that would be the kicker right there.
Oh, and dude, everybody knows that image. Everyone knows that image at this point. Well, at least if you're into this kind of stuff, for sure.
Yeah, but I think it shows that there was that's much more massive than any NFL stadium we have. That little area behind it was like Thousand Oaks, California, and Malibu. It's a huge thing. We don't have any NFL stadium or anything that size, but I think that it shows that there was a high-tech civilization, a global civilization here way before we were.
Yeah.
And it had, just where it was positioned at, it had long enough time, and it sits at 2,000 feet deep. And
there's probably more than one before us.
Yeah, I think that was, the Mayans said that there's been 5, and so, or we're the 5th, but they
5.0.
We're the 7th.
Yeah, but where the
isn't there a lifespan? How many lifespans? Wasn't there? I thought I heard something about that. Like it resets at maybe it is 5 or so. I don't
well, we're supposed to be in what's called the final age of creation. 5,000,
right.
5,000. Yeah. Okay.
It depends if you're going to go with the Hindu or the Vedic stuff, which they've got the Satyas, right, versus the Aeons, which is more Western. But they're roughly 26,000 years, I think. But it goes along with the progression of the equinox.
This thing's sitting at 2,000 feet deep. The Paleocene era, the water level was 400 feet lower, but this was 2,000 feet deep. And so, what could make the water level rise that much? It was the melting of the North American ice cap, because it's the same thing that dug those canyons. You have the same thing that dug those canyons as the same thing that made the water rise, because that structure had to be built when it was above water. I mean, you don't see that type of deposit anywhere else on the earth. It's sediment just doesn't deposit like that, and volcanic rock doesn't come out like that. It just doesn't happen. They're trying to call it Sycamore Knoll like it's one anomaly on the entire earth, but it happens to be right where the ice cap ended, and so that's where the main flow of water would have been going. But I think that shows how much farther back it goes. And like in Russia, they even back to the Precambrian era, they were mining for coal, and inside the andesite, they open it up and there's like gears, and they found microchips and stuff from the Precambrian. We're talking about millions of years ago, and possibly billions, even back to whenever the planet was still in a different, volcanic type phase. But I think that's what, a lot of like Mount Soria was and all that. And like if the moon, like some people think, was drug into position to act as kind of a second Jupiter and absorb a lot of those impact events, I think that's exactly what Mount Soria.
It doesn't weigh enough to attract any kind of bodies. I mean, the gravity would be too small.
Check out this. I saw this on Twitter. This old motherboard looks like ancient Greek ruins.
I saw that the other day. It's ridiculous.
Fucking crazy. Throw some dust all over it.
I've got pictures of like if you look at the lidar of
fucked up.
If you look at the lidar of Teotihuacan, Mexico, and you look at the lidar of Gunung Padang, Cambodia, they both look like a motherboard. The lidar, it even has, it looks like a circuit board. There's all these swirls under there that you can't see under the ground. All you can see under the ground is literally 1/10 of what this whole thing, it looks like a motherboard underground.
Damn.
And with water running under there, just a small amount of electricity would have run the place.
I saw a video the other day. I think it was Anthony Patch talking about how the Intel CPU is modeled after Solomon's Temple. It's pretty hilarious.
Wow.
Well,
cell symbolism, dude. Yeah, crazy.
It's once I started looking at that lidar, it really opened my eyes, because it was like I started putting these images next to each other and couldn't tell which one's which. But you have the main thing, like at Teotihuacan, you have the main four-sided pyramid. Then you have the little road that comes out of the front, and then you have the branches that come off like that out of the front of it. And it's built like a microchip, and that's exactly what it looks like in Cambodia. But go look in Indonesia at like Candi Kethek Pyramid. If you look at it, you will swear that it is Aztec. And I think that, that could be the pyramid, the original pyramid builders right there. I still got a video playing back here. Okay.
Yeah,
all our Twitter stuff.
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, I've been blasting it out on some different platforms, but Jerry was talking earlier about like an expanding earther. You ever hear that?
Yeah. Some people believe that it just goes, the plates go under, but I think that the earth has got bigger over time. Those plates are separating faster than any ground could go underneath. Then one plate could go underneath another one. Plus one plate going underneath another one would cause much more of a surface event than it actually is. And it happens a lot faster. Now, this thing, you would think that when I saw it, when they first started showing me these different sites.
Oh, okay.
Like Danny Irwanto is in the Research Society, and he's in Indonesia, and you would think that was Aztec or something, and that is in Indonesia. And there's so many like that. And Gunung Padang, and then there's so many different types there, and that's why and this really looks Aztec right here, and that's why the name of his site's up. His site's Atlantis Java Sea, because
look at the guy holding his boner.
I was just gonna say, who's stroking his?
Yeah, there is one, and actually one of them's the cover of my book, and it's a little carving, and it actually shows them pouring a stone and pouring these what they call carving. I mean, it shows the process, shows them heating up stone, and then it shows the thing tilted over. And let's see, on Facebook, see.
Damn.
Boyd Independent Research Society. I made a secret page so she could upload the photos from Egypt or wherever, and I could write on them over here. So I write my book there and in my thanks. So y'all the first ones to see this. Yeah, but this is at that pyramid right there that I just showed you, Candy Sook, and it shows them. And I even talked to Dr. Sam Osmanagic in Bosnia, and I told him I had a theory that they were crushing quartz just for the piezo effect. They were crushing quartz and adding it to stones like we do in metallurgy, and then sometimes heating it up and sometimes making cement. And you can see right here them crushing the stone, and right here adding fire, and down here you can see the lever, and you can see the material pouring into the same into a mold of a statue, and he's got his hand on the lever over here. But that's kind of like the cover of my book right now. Nobody else has seen it, so this is the first time anybody's seen it anywhere.
That looks a lot like Pumapunku.
Yeah.
Has similar features, and they have those inlaid H's. Remember? Or I don't know.
Yeah.
Like
let's go even crazier. Like the Easter Island, the Moais. Like, do you think those are molded, like a molded material, possibly?
I'm not even sure on
you have like two molds to it. You have one half of it, the other half you pop the mold out. Then there's the statue. Just move down the line. That's why they're all symmetrical. They're all the fucking same
place, man. Yeah. It is an insane place. And see, Klaus did he got some LiDAR done of it, and I think that's when they found out that the bodies were there too. It wasn't just
goes all the way underground. Yeah.
But see, but like 12 feet deep or something, there are bodies buried under there, and it was like, I don't know, maybe like the kings of one country or the kings of different countries all over the earth they were burying their kings there. But that's what the story of it is from the locals. They said the king's buried there, and they said, how did the Moai get there? And they always say the same thing. They walked into place. And so whatever the hell that means.
Well, they actually have legs underneath them. They've dug down under a few, and they're full-bodied statues. A lot of them are.
Yeah, they're full-bodied,
buried up to their necks.
Speaking of giant things, are you studied any of the found giants or missing giant fossil? Oh yeah, the whole expanding Earth thing. Okay, so if the Earth is expanding, like Jerry, we were talking. Okay, why don't maybe some of these things come to the surface that have been buried and trashed and hidden over the years?
I was just thinking that archaeologists always digging to find ancient stuff, and the only way that could happen is if more stuff got piled on top of it, which would overall make the Earth expand, right?
Yeah. Well, now we're starting to get deeper than we were before. And see, before it was kind of like randomly digging just wherever, but now with LiDAR, we can look exactly and see where we need to look. And when you go back to the whole Bible thing, or even the Sumerian tablets, the Epic of Gilgamesh, the whole deal with the flood and everything, you find human bodies that are buried, but all the giants that are found they all seem to be in some natural state, or like they're in a cave, like, you know, when you find a mother and a father or a man and a woman together. But we found giant bones all over, and now there's been enough of them found that they broke them down to like the 7-meter race, which is literally like what, 24 feet tall, 25 feet tall. But Klaus Donna, I mean, that's why I started looking at him, because he didn't come from some ancient aliens world or anything like that. He didn't write on that. He wasn't even in the archaeology world. But a guy named Father Crespi in Ecuador sent him a heel bone. Part of the mountain slid away where the hospital's built, and they found giant bones inside there. And he found this huge foot, basically the back half of it, and he sent it to Klaus Donna in Vienna, Austria. It was like he was like the skeptic, you know. He was like he was in the art world, and so they were trying to. He wanted to see if it was real or not, or if it was something someone made or something like that. So that's how he got into the whole hidden history of humanity thing and the out of place artifact stuff and all that. But the heel bone, whenever you measure it out, and it was a real human heel bone, human DNA, and then, but when you measure it out, the person would have been 7 meters tall. And in the Middle East, they have found things like the bed of Og, and it was something like the width of his shoulders was like 8 feet wide. And I mean, they've just found so much of it lately, but now there's a lot of independent researchers out there. There's 100 times what there used to be, and that's what I'm trying to get done. And I'm trying to turn the society into a foundation and get some of that money and kind of even up the odds a little bit. Because if somebody funded from a university or from the government finds it, you will never ever hear about it.
That's Suzanne's great grandfather.
Nephilim.
Mm-hmm.
Now we have a Discord chat, and we have a lot of people that are starting to come around and hang out a lot. We've been doing that for a while, and oh man, just like tonight, the ideas just are out expanding at minds daily in there, or retracting at some point, like this afternoon. I mean, some of the shit I saw in there.
It's been an awesome year. I can't even believe all the stuff that I've seen this year. It's like the thing with Point Doom, and then that video of those things flying by. Now it's not just sitting around talking about ideas. Now we're actually getting the proof of all this stuff. And that's what, I mean, and that's what I've been going and doing. And like all the things where there's been like a mystery of something, I go and they give me all the facts of it, and I just look at it, you know, from an industrial point of view, and just from not regurgitating what somebody told me in archaeology class, but just only having the facts and letting the data tell me, like letting the artifact tell me what it is and how old it is, and not how old it's supposed to be. Because that's how everybody else goes off. They say, okay, this entire area was built 12,000 years ago, so everything is younger than that. So let's go find out what period. This must have been during Ramses, because it was shaped like this. And, you know, all they were doing was copying the culture from before them, just like all the other ones did. And it's like in South America, the Inca and a bunch of them, they will tell the archaeologists at Pisac, at Machu Picchu, like, we did not build this. And the archaeologists are like, yes, you did. You built this. And they put it in the history books. The Incas built this, you know, within the last 5,000 years. And all of the locals and all the Incas and everybody, the Olmec and all the descendants from them, they will tell you, we did not build this. It was here when we came here from North America. And there's even stories in the 1100s of the Inca taking trips back to North America, back to their homeland, and, you know, near Arizona, Atzland. And that basically covered about half of North America that we can see. And I think that's what, like here, I think that's what part of Poverty Point was. You know, from the top of Poverty Point Mound, just the way everything's built here with the river, you can see, you know, from horizon to horizon. But if you're controlling the river right there, you would have controlled the Mississippi all the way up to Canada, and you would have controlled the trade routes all the way out to Colorado, because that's where the Mississippi splits with the Red River. But they wouldn't have, just like in Egypt, they wouldn't have stopped at the Texas state line. That's where the history books show it. They would have gone to the Mississippi River. There's no way they would have stopped right before the Mississippi River. And but you know, George Washington has a quote that you will not find in any history books, and he said the first time. And remember, he was a general of a huge army. He'd been president. He had been to big cities, and you got to remember, he had seen massive construction things. And he crossed the Appalachians into the Ohio River Valley and started seeing, that's like where the Snake Mound is and all that.
We just did a show with Micah Hanks, and they started a research group, the 7 Ages Research Project. Might want to get in contact with him, dude.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
I need you. Yeah, we got a lot of mutual friends. But yeah, George Washington said he thought it was barbaric because when they started their expansion west, he said they thought it was barbaric that they were leveling. And his exact quote was, pyramids, mounds, and the largest city-states. I mean, the city-states and the largest construction projects he had ever seen. They were completely leveling them before they went to go claim them. Wow. You know, and you know, that came straight from George Washington. He said there were pyramids and things here. So, you know, all the Inca and everybody, the Olmec, and look in Arkansas, the Toltec and all of them were here before they went down to South America. And we're just now starting to get history right, but you just got to let the data tell you what history was, and not the dumbass in the funny hat with a PhD. I mean, that's all there is to it.
So, okay. So yeah, so we're kind of living in the now, collecting all this data. What do you see like in the future? Or do you think there's going to be new technology to scan things, or like, I mean, maybe some stuff like that, or is it just trying to just gather more, keep gathering the knowledge to rewrite history or whatever?
That's exactly what we're doing. I mean, and that thing that I read earlier on the site, right below that quote, it says, history was written by the victors of wars, but it'll be rewritten by us, the insurgents. And that's totally what it is. I mean, we are the insurgents of history, and we're rewriting it right now. You know, because Ancient Aliens has opened people's minds to different things, and once they start studying, everybody starts looking into UFOs, and they eventually make it over to, you know, the megaliths and things like that. And the more they study, the more they eventually start finding out. And just like open heart surgery, that was mad science.
Yeah.
100 years ago, you were a freaking maniac if you were thinking about cutting somebody open, breaking their rib cage, pulling their heart out while you were, you know, while you
gotta
had
test
them on
it
a
out
pump,
somehow.
you know, and that fringe science becomes mainstream. It always does. And so, but now it's just happening at an accelerated rate. Now people are not listening to Dr. Whoever at University of whatever. You know, now people are looking at my images and all the other independent researchers who are actually out in the field with the actual stuff. You know, a lot of those doctors have never been anywhere but that classroom.
Very true.
Yeah.
Well, damn, dude. I mean, I think we've been at it for a little while. I don't know if you want to, we should regroup again at some point.
Let's do it again.
Yeah. I mean, I know. Yes. I mean,
this format's cool. I can and see next time I can have pictures ready and stuff. And I've got some crazy images that I can show you.
I thought I told you that we won't stop.
There you go.
No, man. Yeah. Yeah. So you want to plug all your info, man, so everyone can get a chance. Maybe I know Jerry's going to put it all in the show links in the chat feed here.
I already have.
Yeah. And I mean,
the Independent Research Society on Facebook, and then Jeffrey Boyd Jr. on Twitter. Now I think there's just one of them, not two. And everything else kind of goes off the Research Society. You can find pretty much all of our links in there. Like I do Watchers Talk Live. I'll be doing another show with them here pretty soon. But all of our, now inside the Research Society, we've got like 50 radio hosts and, I don't know how many producers. And so now we've got the media part of it. and now we've got the science part of it. We've got the people with the technology. So we're becoming the new fourth estate because there is a total lack of one. You know, I mean, we're the ones giving the information. We are the rise of the new fourth estate because people are looking for answers, and all they can find is what Trump tweeted yesterday.
Yes, well said, dude. Yeah. Oh my God, it's out of control. You can't watch TV, dude. It's so fucked up.
Yeah, it's bullshit. It's written. I stopped watching TV. I mean, like 2 years ago, I just disconnected my cable. I just
there you go.
I'm not even watching it anymore. I was like, if I want to watch Vikings, I'll watch it on YouTube.
Yeah, stuff like that. Exactly. Yeah. There's always something else to watch, dude. But that shit, man.
Vikings is cool, but it's not worth the whole cable thing because it's just too much BS.
I just finished Game of Thrones the other night. It's great.
Yeah, hey, but you can get on the internet and binge watch.
Yeah, totally, dude. Yeah,
so exactly. That's how I do it. You know,
binge
no
zones
reason to clutter yourself up with all the BS and the commercials and stuff.
Definitely.
Yeah, but I'll get some images together and like pictures of the bridge at Point Doom and some of that stuff because I can show it on here and. We
have the Zoom thing, man. We're in here a lot. We tend to stream shows live. Jerry does a show live. It's called The Hive. You'll see it on LinkedIn to his channel where we'll get like fucking 10, 15 people in there doing this same thing like what we're doing right now.
So, yeah, well, you might get about 2,000 people watching it from the Research Society today.
Yeah, that'll be awesome.
Yeah, you can go ahead and share it over there, or if I don't know if he's click join on the group and you can share it over there.
I posted a link to the video in Facebook and I tagged you in it so you can go ahead and share it wherever you want.
Cool. Like we have we have chat rooms and since we're in all the time zones in all the countries now, and that's what's cool. Now we have assets in every country, but now like our chat room we have I named it like the live data stream. So now I just drop the shows in the live data stream, and as people wake up around the world, everybody's watching the show, and you watch the numbers go up. And so we've got a few chat rooms that run off that too, and I'll share it over there, and we'll get everybody in on the next show too.
Oh, it'd be fun! I can't wait, man. So you're just gonna keep working on that book and all that? Is that what's going on right now?
Yeah, I'm just as I just come to things like that, and like that video we just watched, that I'm trying to figure out. What do you do with it? You know, I mean, this is what you can do with it right here. Show people, and hope that somebody doesn't go pull it off my YouTube channel and or pull the whole thing down. So I've had to download it. So if anybody wants to go pull my YouTube channel down, I already downloaded the damn thing.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, keep all that stuff.
Yeah, but that video right there, I think you're the first ones I've shown that one to too.
Yeah, I appreciate it, dude. Yeah, this was a blast, man. I can't wait to do it again in the future here. And yeah, like I said, we're around. Yeah, and same thing, man. When you're posting stuff online, I'll be more than happy to shoot it out in the Twitterverse, something like that.
Yeah, I've always got something crazy to show.
Definitely. That's why I love you, dude, man. I've started following you a while back, dude. I'm like, this is awesome. So yeah, I'm glad we got a chance to hang out. And
meet, man, I had a good time. Hey, we'll do another show this week if you want to. I'll put
sweet, dude. Yeah, like I said, we're around. Yeah, anytime you want to toss out some stuff, man, get a hold of me now, dude, for sure. We can definitely look up some stuff.
Yeah. And I just joined the society, and now we're hooked up on Twitter. So literally, I already have the stuff. I just got to put it in one folder because I have so much other stuff in other folders. And, I'm like, put it in one place so I can find it, and y'all don't have to like watch me look for stuff.
Yeah, we're a fairly new show at that also. We're kind of getting everything out and about and just trying to get a little streamlined as our little show gets bigger and bigger. I mean, we're like 30 episodes in, but we've had some great people on and some amazing chats, and we got an awesome group of like people just like you do. And it's just, and I can't wait to venture down the road with you, dude.
Hey man, I'm ready. I'm ready for the next one. I'll get some stuff together and just let me know when you want to do it. I mean, I can do one this week because I know I've got a pile of stuff. I got a pile of stuff I can show you.
Excellent, dude. Yeah, Typically, well, it depends. I mean, we got a couple more shows to do. I'm trying to line up, but we'll definitely hit up soon. And yeah, well, maybe we can come up with a little platform. I mean, it doesn't have to be like 4-hour shows. If you have like something really cool that we could go over real quick and just make videos. I mean, sometimes people don't have enough the time to sit around and watch 3-hour show like we're doing now. But if we make segments and stuff, that'd be great, man. Just to get some stuff out there for sure.
Yeah, we can definitely do some like subject things, like point doom. I can get the images for that,
right?
And maybe we'll like analyze that video because I'm gonna take it and I'm gonna run it through an image or two, because I can flip into ultraviolet and into microwave. Because I still haven't even had a chance to do that to that video. I got a chance to run it through one time, but now I've got much better imaging access. Now with the Research Society, I've got access to so much more. Because we're only a year and a half old, something like that, and it's the core of like everybody anybody who's ever been on Coast to Coast AM, anybody who's ever been on Ground Zero is a member. So you definitely get, I've got in touch with some people that are just awesome. Everybody, George Knapp, I mean, he's the one who discovered the Area 50 or came up with the Area 51 thing. Olaf Phillips, I mean, we got everybody over there, but yeah, we got access to whatever. And if there's something you want to do a show on, we can come up with something.
Let's do it, man. Let's do it.
That sounds awesome, man. Well, shoot, I had a good time, guys. And let's do it again really soon.
Yeah, it was amazing. Thanks to everyone in the chat, man. It was awesome. Everyone's having a good time in the chat, too. Want to say good night to you.
What's up, everybody in the chat?
Click follow, like, subscribe.
You guys come find me. Come join the society.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
All right, I'm out of here.
Titties and ass, don't forget.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. That was awesome.
All right, take care.